Hey, welcome to the Friday Night Drive podcast, the West and South edition. He's Shaw Sports Regional Editor J.T. Pedelty. I'm Daily Chronicle Sports Editor Eddie Carifio. We got some games to talk about. No time for chit-chat, J.T. We need to get into this week.
Yes,
we've got some doozies. We've got 7-0 teams battling. We've got other 7-0 teams battling. We've got the IA title on the line. Dealer's choice. Where do you want to start?
You know what? And the big thing is, even when you're not talking about championships and undefeated teams, almost everything is playoff ramifications. And I mean, almost every game in the state. And it's been really awesome. I did a couple of them for our market in Joliet Morris area and the Ottawa, LaSalle, Princeton area, and kind of did those playoff outlooks. I know you did one for the DeKalb area. I would highly recommend people check out FridayNightDrive.com. We have them for pretty much all our markets, and when you put it all together, it's pretty much the northern half of the state and what every team that's still alive for a playoff berth needs to do, who they have left to play, how many playoff points they have, just all that good stuff. So I'd highly recommend. But I mean, you know what? I'd be perfectly happy starting right here close to home for both of us in the Interstate 8. I mean, Morris Sycamore is a game that we've talked about every week that we've been around, and it's finally here, man.
Yeah, no, a lot of questions around this one. Morris, basically, it's their quarterback situation. They had against Ottawa, they had R.J. Kennedy, sophomore, I believe, making his first career start. Looked very impressive. He filled in the Rochelle game because apparently the starter Brady Varner took a big hit on that one late in the game, and he hasn't been back since. So, but as Sycamore coach Joe Ryan said, it doesn't matter if it's their ones or their twos. They have players that can play, and you gotta play him for the scheme, not the player. So, and he definitely has a point on that one.
Yeah, there's one thing, when you talk about Brady Varner coming in, and certainly not to take, R.J. Kennedy coming in, and certainly for Varner, and not to take anything away from him or either of them and how talented they are, because they are. But Morris has so many weapons that, you don't want to say it's a system quarterback or anything like that. But, no matter who's sitting behind center, and they are both talented, but even, no matter how talented they are, they've got a lot of talented people to get their hand, the ball in their hands, kind of a Brock Purdy situation. People are still wondering, is he good? Is he really good? And, he's kind of proven that he probably is pretty good. And I think the Morris quarterbacks are too. So whoever's there, I think you're going to end up with absolutely a great game, and Morris is going to be dangerous no matter who's behind center.
Yeah, Sycamore does. Obviously, their defense has been very strong this year, especially in forcing the turnovers. Their secondary has been, took them a game. The DeKalb torched them pretty good. Since then, they've kind of settled down. I mean, Muhammad Seymour, which exclusively passes the ball, had to actually get out of their pass. Part of that was because of injury to a top receiver. But part of that was because I think Sycamore also already had 2 interceptions at that point. Carter York in the secondary, also top receiver for the Spartans. I guess spoiler alert to our clicks to pick. He has been very strong in that secondary. I think he's got 3 interceptions this year, I want to say, including I think all have very big returns, and I think he's taken one back for a touchdown. So that matchup should be very interesting. There defensively, I'm kind of thinking the higher scoring the game that it is probably better for Morris. I know Peoria is probably the outlier. They're not generally going to play a 58-52 game, but if that score gets up, Sycamore likes the lower scoring game. They like to try to run the ball, control the clock. I think if it's that sort of game, that probably benefits Sycamore. Morris can put some points up and force Sycamore, out of that comfort zone, then I think that probably bodes better for them.
Yeah, I mean, Morris has only been held under 31 points once this year, and that was in 2 weeks ago in their loss to Rochelle. So, which I think was a big, kind of an eye opener for them. They came, and we'll see. Morris can put up points. Sycamore can obviously stop people from putting up points. So, what kind of game plays out, I don't know. I would think just based on what we've seen this year that, Sycamore would have to be kind of your pick to take this one. I would think it would be your pick as well. They're probably mine, but I wouldn't be stunned at all if Morris turned around, got this one and made a mess at the top of the Interstate 8 standings.
Yeah, 3-way tie if Rochelle takes care of business against, is it Ottawa this week? I think they have Ottawa.
Yeah, Rochelle. Yeah, Rochelle's hosting Ottawa.
Yeah, so they take care of business there. That sets, and Morris does top Sycamore. That sets them all up with one loss, tied for first with the each having beaten each other. So the
Sorry,
one other
Rochelle's
note
at
on
Ottawa. Sorry, Rochelle's at Ottawa.
okay,
Apologies.
the one other note of this one I just wanted to toss out there into the universe is it seems the key to beating Morris is to be able to run the ball. Now, that's been a battle for Sycamore this year. Not that they've been bad running the ball, but it hasn't been the numbers you're used to. A lot of that's a new line, only 2 returners on the line. So it starts up front, obviously, like with any team. But if they could get, it's been progressing. Had a really good game against Canelan a couple weeks ago on the ground. So if they can, Rochelle put up 398 yards, Peoria put up 499. Not that that's a prerequisite to win, but it's certainly going, to help if they can have that running performance, which I do not believe they have had this year. I think they may not have topped 300 this year on the ground. I don't think. So, well, that's the last little wrinkle in it. Sycamore probably wants to run the ball, have it be lower scoring. Morris probably helps them if it's a higher scoring shootouts.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of the game, the marquee game in the Interstate 8, this week. But I sneaky good one. I mean, I think LaSalle-Peru at Canelan. Could be
You're big on this one.
Yeah, LP comes in 3-4, Canelan's 4-3, and kind of, if you were just sitting there looking at the teams and the records and kind of recent history, you'd be like, yeah, this should be pretty much Canelan. But I mean, Canelan's been struggling. They've kind of lost 3 in a row. I'm not so sure they are an overwhelming favorite in this. The only time all year they've beaten an opponent who had a winning record when they played them was week 2 against Wakanda. Admittedly, LP does not have a winning record, 3-4, but and then part of that's when you play who in this Interstate 8 where it's just 4 absolute powerhouses, and then you have your LP and Ottawa from down here. But I really think LP played Sycamore really tough. Last week 28-13 final. LP lost by 28 points to Rochelle. That's how many points Canelan lost to Rochelle by. LP actually played Morris 2 points closer than the Knights did when they played. LP freshman quarterback Marion Persich just passed 1,000 yards passing on the season, and you've seen him kind of improve with every game, kind of numbers on the field. When having a freshman out there playing at the 5A, 6A level is not a thing you see a whole lot. I believe he might be the first freshman starting varsity quarterback in LaSalle-Peru history, and that's a program that goes back into the 1800s. So, this should be a good game. They're both fighting for the playoff lives. LP really probably needs to get to that 5th win. They probably could sneak in with 4, maybe, if Steve Susi's projections on FridayNightDrive.com are correct. But LP needs this one. I think Canelan wouldn't mind it either. I think they have a tough one in week 9 also, don't they, Eddie?
Yeah, they're down at Belleville playing Altoff, which 1A, but also an undefeated private school 1A at this point. Probably be going into that game at 8-0. So yeah, Canelan definitely needing this one as well.
Yeah, I think this could be a sneaky good pick for a good game to keep an eye on. LP's kind of played a lot of teams closer than people thought they would. They've got the wins they were supposed to get. So if they can get one that maybe they're not supposed to get, which would be this week, they'd put themselves in great shape with a trip to, I believe, winless O'Fallon coming up.
1-6 O'Fallon.
1-6 O'Fallon. Yeah, coming up in week 9. So.
I just pulled up the I-8 standings, so I don't have O'Fallon's record memorized.
You know what? Well, O'Fallon won last week. That's why I had him winless. Yep,
yeah.
They beat Melville West 18-15. So, so LP has the opportunity to, if they can get this 4th win here, they have an opportunity to head down south and get themselves a playoff spot. So I think this game will be maybe better than people looking at it on paper or just kind of going by reputation might think.
Yeah, the one just addendum I would have, you made it sound like the Canelan, Canelan has beaten 2 teams that are currently 5-2. They started the year off going to Washington and winning, and they beat Wakanda in week 2. So they have, a couple solid wins under their belt. Then obviously thrashing DeKalb. DeKalb's had their struggles this year, still winless, although I could talk for 45 minutes about I don't know why this team is 0-7. This is a team that has so much more talent, but that's another thing for another day. So Canelan has, obviously the 3-game losing streak has been against, as we have said, we should probably trademark the cream of the crop in the I-8, but Yeah, no, they have a couple of high-profile wins under their belts, and I get the feeling if they get the confidence back this week, they'll be able to give Althoff a run for their money.
Yeah, and that's whenever we talk Interstate 8, it's always you sit there and say, yeah, well they played these three teams and that's their losses. Well, that's three of LP's losses too, are to those same three teams. So it's
Yeah,
when you're talking about these teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack of a conference like the Interstate 8 that only has 6 teams, and
yeah,
four of them
exactly.
are or at least three of them are flat out powerhouses this year. And then you have Canelan and LP in Ottawa, and kind of anytime you talk about Canelan, LP, or Ottawa, their record, their win streaks, their losing streaks, it always comes with a, well, I mean, they just played Morris, Rochelle, Sycamore, and
Right.
that's just kind of the boat they're in. So, but yeah, I said I think it should be a good game. I think Canelan's probably your favorite, but I wouldn't be stunned at all if we're scrolling through X on Friday night on a sideline and being like, oh, look what LP's doing.
We got two 7-0 games we haven't talked about yet. Want to start down your neck of the woods with that one? I mean, Wilmington,
Wilmington,
Mantino.
Mantino. Well, it's in my general direction. Yeah. Wilmington, Mantino, both 7-0 overall, 5-0 in the Illinois Central 8. This was not on my at the beginning of the season. If I were plotting this out, I did not think this would be a 7-0 versus 7-0 matchup. Wilmington, not surprising anyone. Mantino, just like we talked about with who you play when you play them with these win streaks and everything. Mantino has not played Wilmington yet. Obviously, they play them this week. They have not played Coal City yet. So that's a big part of their 7-0. As a matter of fact, their opponents this year that they've played so far have gone a combined 15 and 34. So not the strongest competition for Mantino, but a very quality win over Piatone, a Piatone team that I think most people, guilty as charged, me, probably thought was that third team kind of in the Illinois Central 8. And it turned out it was Mantino. So props to the Panthers. Now they got a chance to kind of prove some more people wrong and make a statement hosting Wilmington. I saw Wilmington last week host Coal City, and holy cow, that's a good football team. Defending 2A state champs. Newsflash: Wilmington's good at football. But defending 2A state champs, I wouldn't be surprised a bit to see them playing Thanksgiving weekend again. Just what they did with Coal City. It was only a 21-14 win, but I believe they only let Coal City have the ball twice the entire second half. Just an impressive showing by
That's what you call ball control offense.
Yeah, it was amazing environment in Wilmington. They got the guys and women on the Harleys revving the engines for a nice cloud of smoke, and the team comes out of the woods, and just a great environment, packed people lined up on the field. It was a fantastic game. Wilmington, Ryan Kettman, Kyle Farrell are kind of their dual running backs, kind of a little bit of lightning and thunder, but their lightning has a little bit of thunder to them, and the thunder's pretty lightning too. So, and that defense. So, I mean, Wilmington's defense, they held Coal City, and we all know what Coal City can do running the football, to 22 carries for 40 yards. So, it's going to be a tough one for Mantino this week, but like you said, it's a 7-0, and you play it on the field, and no one thought Mantino would be here now. So maybe they have another surprise in him.
I just want to say about the Wilmington atmosphere. Like at first, when I read about it, I just thought it was like, oh, there's motorcycles on the field. Which, where I was before this, like a decade and a half ago in Arizona, they would have one school did motorcycles, one school did cop cars. They all had this thing. But the element that sounds like cool as heck is the coming out of the woods.
Yeah,
there's just like woods at the fields.
Yeah, there's just woods behind one of the end zones, kind of going straight back, and a path coming right down the middle. And there's actually a tree wrapped up with like purple streamers and whatnot.
I feel like we shouldn't be covering them then. I mean, this is we very specifically, our mission statement is cornfields.
Yes, not woods. So, there's plenty of them. I feel
like we have to axe them from our coverage. It's got to be corn they're coming out of, children of the corn type thing. Just as intimidating with the motorcycles and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I had and some. Tis the season, I suppose. Tis the season.
Yes.
I had a nice Wilmington mom direct me to a tree I could lean against to not get run over by a Harley. So that was to videotape the entrance and not get run over. So thank you to her if she happens to be listening. But yeah, we have another 7-0, 7-0. Pretty excited about this one as well, Eddie.
Yeah, no, that's back up this way. A big Northern Conference showdown between Dixon and Byron. Both teams are in 7-0. Byron obviously has been, one of the best teams in the state for, 3 years. So they just roll over people left and right. If there was ever a team set up to maybe give them a challenge, it's this Dixon team right now.
Yeah, Dixon's ranked second in Class 4A in the last Associated Press poll. Byron's the top-ranked team in 3A, and deservedly so. So, I mean, this is that type of matchup. You're again, like Morris Sycamore, this is that one, and unlike Wilmington Mantino, this is one that we've been talking about probably since the first week we did this year was Byron Dixon on the radar. Hey, when's that coming up? We got Byron Dixon coming up. Here it is. Byron's won 21 in a row, including last year's state championship. They're coming off a 64-0 win over Winnebago. And then you kind of look at their resume, and Dixon doesn't have a state championship recently on it, but their resume is almost as impressive. They've been kind of just handling everybody. These are the top offense and the top defense in the conference for both teams. Number one, number two, number one, number two. So I just think this is one that, not forget the conference championship. This is just going to be a fun football game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think points galore in this one. I mean, I don't want to sell the defenses short, but both these teams can put up points in a hurry. If we've learned anything over the course of this season, that the final is probably going to be 7-6. Say that. But no, it's just a tremendous game. I mean, Byron hasn't given up a point in like 3 weeks. I don't know their health. I know Caden, I'm going to butcher his last name, Considine, I believe. I know he had been hurt. He's still just a sophomore, no more than a junior, linebacker, running back. But when you talk about the having the number two as good as the number one, they haven't obviously missed a beat there. So, no, it is going to be a tremendous game. I mean, boy, would I love to say Dixon's going to pull off the upset in this one. But, yeah, you can't go against Byron. I mean,
it's tough. I am really interested. Byron's, I think their matchup to when you really want to pay attention when Byron's offense is on the field. Dixon's defense, not only has been spectacular and not allowing points, they forced 15 turnovers this year in 7 games. So that's, more than 2 a game. And considering that a lot of games are running clock, a lot of games are kind of out of hand where both coaches are just happy to kind of keep the clock moving, 15.
Well, a lot of teams in the BNC don't throw the ball either. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this will be just a fantastic matchup. And like I said, I agree with you. I think Byron's got to be your favorite, but I know I've said this for 2 games already. I would not be surprised if we looked, checked our Twitter feed on Friday night and was, hey, look what Dixon's doing to Byron. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. These are 2 teams that are made to make a deep playoff run in Class 2A and 3A respectively.
Yeah, I really want to be out there saying, yeah, Dixon upsets. But, man, it's really hard to pick against Byron. Not to mention I've been a little, maybe wrong to call it some upsets this year. So play it safe on that one. But, no, the BNC, and actually in his playoff projection column, Seuss did point out, and we've talked about it a little bit, that the middle of the BNC this week, some big ones there. You got 4 teams, either 4-3 or 3-4. He points out that all of these teams could make the playoffs, or none of these teams could make the playoffs. Now, granted, both of those are extremely unlikely. I mean, I think it would involve like North Boone beating Dixon or something, for them to get in. But it's an interesting battle there. I think I mentioned Rocky Lou last week, Rockford Lutheran. Okay, are they the 3rd team in the conference, or are they in that middle and they just hadn't played any of the teams in the middle? Now, last week they picked up a win against North Boone, which is one of those teams in the middle. But now they shut them out, right? What was that?
They shut them out, right?
I believe so. Yeah, 28-0, 21-0, something like that. But
21.
Yeah, no. So Rockford Lutheran is going to control a lot of these teams' face. I think they're already locked up for a playoff spot. But you're going to have to get past the Crusaders if you're going to want to get into the postseason. I know GK plays them in week 9. They play Rock Falls this week. They're sitting at 3-4 right now, having lost to Stillman Valley, who's 4-3. I mean, like I said, it's just It is a crazy conference right now, the way the middle of that pack is.
Yeah, it is. If you want to encapsulate it all in one thing, that kind of sums it all up. I mean, here's Rockford Lutheran's last third of the regular season, with records now. They beat North Boone, who's now 3-4. Would have been 4-3 had they lost to them. So North Boone is 3-4. This week they play Oregon, who's 4-3, and next week they play Genoa Kingston, who's currently 3-4. That's that whole middle of the conference. It's all 3-4, 4-3, a few 5-2 sprinkled in, such as Rockford Lutheran. But I mean,
Right.
that's just everyone you play as a team that's, on the verge of a playoff spot, fighting for their playoff lives. So it just makes for some really exciting stuff, especially when you have a week like this where the two top dogs, Byron and Dixon, are squared off with each other. So it's just the rest of the conference kind of slugging it out, and it's so even, so balanced that it just makes for some great Friday night football.
Yeah, no, I think that Rockford Lutheran Oregon game is kind of like the LP Keeneland game, I think, of the BNC this week. Obviously, Oregon, in that 4-3 pack, with their obviously have lost to Dixon and Byron. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, where's Rockford Lutheran in this? So it's just really interesting. But I know there's some interesting down that way too.
Yeah, there's another one kind of relative to that. So sort of Woodstock North is actually 6-1, kind of has a little bit more. Sandwich 4-3, so they're playing for the playoff lives. This is one that we had quite the conversation between a few of our sports editors trying to decide who would win, who we think's going to win this game. Sometimes we collaborate on our Friday night drive picks, and sometimes we just do what Seuss tells us, as smart people would. But this is one of those collaborative ones where it was, Sandwich of Woodstock North. Well, Woodstock North is 6-0, but they're coming, or 6-1, but they're coming off their first loss, and they had a pretty rough go of it. 35-0 to Richmond Burton. Sandwich is only 4-3, but they've been playing really well. They had a blip loss, and their first two losses are to teams who, I believe, through 7 weeks were still undefeated. Not sure if they still are. It was Wilmington and can't think off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, these are, two teams that, look very balanced on paper, even though Woodstock North has 2 more wins. So we were kind of, debating back and forth. I think we decided on Woodstock North. I'll be honest, I'm not pleased as punch about it. I kind of like Sandwich's chances in this one, but it could go either way. Also, these are 2 of those teams that are in the hunt for that Kishwaukee River Conference Championship. Those 2 and Richmond Burton are all 4-1 in the conference. So somebody's going to get that conference representative spot. Probably all 3 of them are going to be in the playoffs anyway, if things play out the way we think they probably will. Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good football game in Woodstock.
Here, let's see if you can guess Sandwich's losses if I help you out. They're both the teams that are still undefeated. However, one of these teams is guaranteed to lose this week. It's Mantino and Wilmington.
Oh, Mantino. Yeah. So, you know what? I should have figured that out, because I remember at the beginning of the season being like, oh, they play 2 old Interstate 8 conference rivals from back in the day in the opening 2 weeks of the year. I should have put that together.
Yeah, but weeks 1 and 2 were what, 3.5 years ago? I mean, who can remember back that far? Definitely. We were young men back then, JT.
Definitely feels it. I had no gray. Don't go back and look. But yeah, I think this should be a really good game. I said I kind of like Sandwich's chances. They've kind of got Nick Michalik and Simeon Harris as kind of the dual running backs out of a wing tee. But Woodstock North's, obviously they've won their first 6 games, so they're doing just fine too. So I think good game. One of those ones to kind of keep an eye on that could go either way, and for Sandwich especially is going to have a lot to do with how those middle, 4A, 5A playoff brackets end up looking.
Yeah, and with Sandwich, it's worth pointing out, if they do lose this one, obviously winning it takes care of the playoffs more than likely, getting them that 5th win, which pretty much will guarantee them a spot. A loss, however, obviously puts them at 4-4 going into week 8, when they face Marengo, who is likely to be 4-4 going into that week. They play Richmond Burton this week. So, when you get 2 4-4 teams playing in week 8, you can throw out anything you think about the game. So both teams are just, obviously, it becomes an early playoff game. So Sandwich probably wants to alleviate putting themselves in that situation. I am sure, and you can do that with the win here on top of all the top of the conference implications.
Yeah, and Marengo, I mean, they played Woodstock North. They lost to them, but it was 20-14 back in week 3. So, I mean, we're talking about very comparable teams, Woodstock North, Marengo, Sandwich. I think Richmond Burton's kind of emerged from that pack in the Kishwaukee River. They had that early conference loss to Johnsburg, 21-14, also in week 3. Since then, they've just absolutely rolled everybody. It's hard to think that they're going to trip up against Marengo this week, or they're at home against Plano in week 9. Plano only has the 1 win this season over Ottawa in week 1. So, I think it'll be interesting how the Kishwaukee River shakes out here at the end. But I mean, Richmond Burton, I don't think is going to trip up. So this game will have a lot to say with who's going to share that conference title with them.
I think there's one more we want to talk about here. And my personal favorite conferences, we're all aware, in the Chicago Prairie Land Conference.
Chicago Land
Conference that definitely should exist.
So you're doing that thing where you purposely mispronounce someone's name because you don't like them. It's Chicago Land Prairie.
I'm sorry. And I'm going to brief this right there. It was not on purpose. It was not spiteful. It was sheer incompetence. I swear.
But yeah, the Chicago Land. Well, yeah, if the writing's on the wall here, unless something major changes, I don't think you'll have to worry about your favorite conference for much longer. Walther Christian's been forfeiting the whole second half of this season, so which effectively puts the conference, down to 4. So it's basically at that point, do you just kind of be like, I guess we'll be independent. Let's all agree to play each other and look for games. I'm certain that they're all scouring, looking for 1A, 2A, maybe even some 3A teams that would be willing to join up with them. It is what's remained of the conference, the 4 teams that are down my neck of the woods. You got Dwight Gardner, South Wilmington, Peru St. Bede, Ottawa Marquette, and Seneca. Those are 4 pretty good programs. None of them are strangers to the postseason. None of them have recent state championships but they all have a few playoff wins here and there. So I would think that, that could be kind of an attractive offer to, if you got a 2A, maybe a 3A out there. It's just a matter of finding people who are willing to join in with, programs who, have pretty good teams. But yeah, I don't know if they all go independent or not, but we still have a conference this year, even though it doesn't have Seuss told me, confirmed for me that they do not have an automatic playoff bid. Isn't going to matter for either of these two. Marquette's standing at 5-2, Seneca at 7-0. They played back in week 3. Seneca beat them 48-13. But one thing I see over and over and over again is these teams, now that they've had to play each other twice a year, which used to be kind of a regular thing around high school football back in the day, even Ottawa and Streeter, I think in the 80s for like 4 straight years played each other twice kind of randomly. But this one, when you teams play each other twice, a lot of times you'll see the more talented or the team that kind of people expect more from kind of get a convincing win the first time they meet. And that second game tends to get a lot closer. And I would suspect we'll see something like this here. Seneca won 48-13 back in week 3. Week 3's come up a lot. That was a big week. Did we notice it at the time?
Go back. We should go back and listen to that podcast. You also go back and listen to that podcast. Listen to all 3 podcasts from week 3.
But I expect something kind of more in the vein of a close football game. They both run it. It'll be a fast football game. Marquette's a wing T team. Seneca runs out of the power T formation. So Brody Rodemaker's their main guy. Grant Dose is coming off a 5 touchdown performance for Marquette. I expect a pretty close game. I think Seneca's got to be your favorite. They haven't lost a regular season game since right after the COVID lockdown. So I think you fully have to expect that Seneca would win this one, but also that Marquette would have a better showing for themselves than they did in week 3.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that one. I mean, that's one Seneca, they've earned their stripes, like you said, since 2021 onward. So nothing to add on that one. Click the pick. Let's move on.
Yes, I got one. Mine's from a game we haven't talked about, or I think we alluded to a little bit. And I got the location of it wrong for a second. I'm going to take a wingback Dylan Manning for Rochelle. Coming off a 217-yard, 4 touchdown performance against Canelan last week. And Ottawa, conversely, is surrendering 325 yards of offense a game, almost 200 of those coming on the ground every Friday. So that's a recipe for a big day for Manning if Ottawa can't correct that. That wing T, as you know from covering high school football so long, you never know which guy, one day oh wait, the trap's there, and then the fullback goes for 180 yards. Oh, the wing's there, jet sweeps, and so you never know exactly who's going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the carries and everything. But I think Dylan Manning's a pretty good candidate for Rochelle. I think the Hub's got to be lined up to do pretty well at Ottawa, just kind of based on what we've seen. So my pick, wingback Dylan Manning, Rochelle.
Didn't I pick Manning a couple of weeks ago? I want to say I did. So he's the first two-time pick to click, right?
I think he is.
Yeah, sophomore, and I want to say I saw on the Twitter, I could be forgetting, that he took a game day visit already to a MAC school, like maybe Central or Western Michigan. I can't 100% remember, but I feel like I remember seeing that on the social media. But obviously outstanding player, Dylan Manning. Like I said, poised for a big game. I'm going with someone I did mention already in a game we did talk about extensively. I'm going with Carter York for Sycamore. Two-way player, wide receiver, and in the secondary. I know I said running the ball is going to be important for Sycamore, but it's a chess match. Morris knows that. Sycamore knows Morris knows, and they have thrown the ball a bunch this year. They're actually pretty balanced when you look at their total yards between the pass and the run. So York obviously is the main guy there. They have also Ed Weiser's a really good receiver too, track standout. But York is the top receiver, and then you throw in his work in the secondary. If regardless of who the quarterback is for Morris, when they're going to have to think twice about throwing the ball around with that secondary, and York is a big part of that. Just a complete ball hawker back there. So Carter York, my click to pick this week.
Yeah, it's just a great schedule of action, for week 8 here, and it finally actually feels a little bit like football weather out there.
It won't by Friday though.
It's going to warm up some. Yeah, it's going to warm up some. So, but yeah, it's got, like I said, really good games coming up. I mean, Morris and Sycamore is not a 7-0. It easily could have been. And then we have quite a few that are. There's real good matchups. Couple of nice matchups, an 8-man. Amboy and Flanagan Cornell Woodland both have some other playoff bound teams. So I think just a really strong week 8 across the board. I'm looking forward to it, Eddie.
Yeah, actually, it's probably, I would say, better than week 9. This week, the way the matchups land, better than week 9. I know week 9 we'll have the 4 and 4 teams playing each other, all the playoff battles. When you talk about marquee teams this week, and we talked about 3 or 4 of those matchups here, it's you're not beating this week's slate for them.
Yeah, so. Big problem with week 9, the way schedules are made now, is so many of them are, we talked about LaSalle-Peru playing O'Fallon, or who'd we have going down to Belleville?
Caneland. Yeah, the 6-team conferences tend to do week 9 out of conference. So they go, what would that be? Weeks 4 through 8 in conference, or 3 through 8 in conference. I guess in theory, it's easier to schedule week 9 than week 4, I guess is the reasoning behind that.
Yeah. Traditionally week 9 was always one that would be open if you were in a closed conference. And now that conferences are all different sizes, you don't see it as much. But Joliet Catholic's going to Michigan, I believe. So, I mean, this is kind of in week 9. When you get to week 9, I think a lot of teams are going to be, you're not going to have the matchups you do week 8, when it seems like a lot of conferences are like, let's week 7 and 8. This is where we're putting our marquee games for our conference. Do they do it on purpose? I don't know. It sure seems that way though.
Yeah. Well, there are some, the Sycamore Cahokia, which you wouldn't think about, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next week, but I mean, that's going to be 2 teams with 1 or 2 losses at the absolute most playing each other. So probably a 0-1 or 0-1 loss team playing a 1-loss team. So they're still there, but this week is just something, and I'm glad you decided to let us listen to us talk about it for 35 minutes. But that about does it. So for J.T. Pedelty, I'm Eddie Carifio. Thanks for listening.
See ya.